All right, rock and roll nerds. Today we're doing something dangerously fun. Counting down our top 5 3-album runs. Not just one classic, not two, but 3 straight records where the band is locked in. And yeah, this list is going to start some arguments. So consider this your official invitation to yell your picks back at us. We'll be right back.
Get ready for the 3324 podcast, where lifelong friends Dean Legiro and Eric Kuber share their love of all things music and movies. Dean has directed short films and is a music trivia buff. And Eric, trained in audio engineering, brings his extensive knowledge of music and film to the conversation as they discuss, debate, and celebrate their favorite albums, films, and much more.
Welcome, friends, to the 3324 podcast. So happy if you're new to this whole thing. If you found us, we've been on a 5-year timer, Eric, and the timer has gone off, and you have finally found this episode. We've been waiting for you. We've been working hard for 5 years to meet you at this point.
Yes, we have.
Yes,
indeed. Yes.
Which means the good news is, besides this brand new episode, you've got 5 years worth of other episodes to go check out. So this is, if you're new, welcome aboard. This is your introduction to the 3324 podcast. Our guests are some of the, some of the veterans of the show. So, if you do go back, you may hear these gentlemen's voices again. And we've got a top 5 coming our way. So Eric, why don't you go ahead and introduce these fine rock and roll historians.
Legends. They've become legends in their
Yeah, they are legends in the 3324 podcast Hall of Fame.
All right. So we have Mr. Rob DeStefano, our veteran Zeppelin fan. Big time. Yeah.
Yes.
As evidenced by the song Remains the Same poster. It's not quite in plain view, but there it is. It's hiding back there. But and then of course Mr. Chris Clark, probably our Encyclopedia Brown of the group. And when it comes to music, his knowledge is just astounding, and we're happy to have him. So welcome, gentlemen.
Thank you.
As always.
Encyclopedia Clark-tanica.
There you go.
Yeah.
And then there was always that extra volume of the encyclopedias. It was just like extra stuff. There'd be like the A through Z, and then there's like an extra one.
Yeah.
It wasn't like an atlas or something, we love having our guests on, and these two gentlemen were the kind of the natural picks, I thought, when we decided to do this episode. This was, I forgot where this, Eric emailed, he goes, is this something that you came up with? And I'm like, I don't think so. Someone recommended it to me. Maybe it was Chris, maybe it was Rob.
Before I came on the show, I actually sent it to you. Before you actually had me as a guest, I messaged you.
That's why I deleted it.
Okay.
Now that you're in, I read your emails. When you send me an email, I don't know you. I'm saying, so I probably read it, and then it just kind of osmosized.
It was such a good idea. It just kind of sat there and marinated.
Yeah, exactly, but I did not take credit for it. I knew I did not have the idea.
Did you discuss this with your brother, Chris, at all?
Yes, I absolutely. Well, this is kind of a conversation my family and I always have about like certain artists. Like they had that one run, and then like my dad will always, and he's actually said it when I've been on the show. If they only recorded these 3 albums, this would be like they could do nothing else, and their legendary status would be locked. So it's always kind of been an ongoing conversation in my family, because my brother, my dad, and I have this thing where we'll kind of discuss records we're listening to and stuff. So, and this is always a conversation that comes up.
That's an interesting thought, and it's an interesting way to approach the selections, right?
Mm-hmm.
If this were the only 3 albums this group made, well, yeah, I guess, but I think there's other ways to approach it, and I'm guessing we'll probably see some of that, because then Rob B had also said, well, this was kind of hard. And I agreed with him at first, right? But then I kind of had a thought, and then a kind of like a calm came over me, kind of like Robin Williams in Good Will Hunting. It's like, I thought about it, and then I had a peaceful thought, and then I hadn't thought about it since. And I think I was trying too hard to figure it out is what it was. And I needed to understand that this is going to be about our favorite bands. Like we're not going to be
no doubt
bands that are just like random. So it's kind of like, well, yeah, this is one of the, you know, we do very few Homer episodes, and this is one of the ones where we're going to be able to really kind of dig into what we like, Eric, right? And kind of
we have to
pick from that, right? And once I kind of came to grips with that, it made it a lot easier. I'm like, yeah, I'm not going to worry about who,
right.
I'm just going to go with what I like, and then within what I like, what do I think is, you know, what do I like even narrower, right? So you kind of have your broad list of your favorite groups. You pick the certain ones, and then from there you start shaving it off, kind of like sculpting, right? Or chipping away.
It has to be. I mean, you know, we could look at lists that people have made. You know, I'm sure there's probably hundreds of lists. You know, if you just look up, hey, top 3 consecutive albums, whatever, and there's a ton of artists listed, but which are the artists that mean the most to you? You would have to pick what, you know, like you say, your favorite off that list. I would think, and not, you know, it's not something that I chose to do because like, you know, because I just wanted to go there. I just wanted to pick, hey, I got to go with what I'm into and what I loved. And
yeah,
so
and it makes
there
sense. And we'll be best suited to speak to that, right?
Right.
We did set some ground rules. So what we're doing is we're talking about our top 5 3-album runs from an artist or group, and excluded from that, of course, are compilations, box sets, any greatest hits, because that's just cheating. Live albums are allowed, but if the live album is in there and you don't want it, you don't have to use it. If you're going to go with studio releases, you can do that as well. And we're going to do round robin, but we're expecting some overlap. So if there is some overlap and someone has the same group on their list, maybe not even the same run, but the same group, they'll jump in as well and give that pick, and it'll just kind of hopefully enhance the whole conversation. And it'll be, if we get all of that correct, it'll be even a better thing. If we can manage all these rules and regulations and twists and turns, hey, we've got a podcast episode. So there's not too much to introduce. Again, it's just 3 albums from the discography of whatever group it is that we think are, you know, and again, it might not be the most popular ones, but it might be the ones that we really feel embody the band at their pinnacle, a band in transition. There are so many different reasons to pick different runs of albums, especially if you're going with a group that has a big discography. You have a lot to choose from and a lot to chew on. And if you have a group that has a smaller discography, well, then it might be might be a little more a little less surgical, right? Because you don't have as much to play with. So let's stop the chatting and let's get to the 3 album runs. And let's start with the guy that claims he had the idea for it. He said he implanted it in my brain through an email that I claim I never read, but that's how these urban legends start. So we'll go with Mr. Christopher Clark, and go ahead with your first artist. And I guess the way we should do this is kind of do the artist and then say the 3 albums. Okay. If you have the years for each one, even better. But let's start there and see how we go. Kick us off.
Right. So the one I'm going to start with is the band is The Replacements, who are a big punk alternative band from the 80s. And the 3 albums were Hootenanny, which I believe came out in 1983, Let It Be, which came out, I think, in 84, and then I forget if the third one, which is an album called Tim, came out in either 85 or 86. And those 3 records are really kind of where you see the Replacements come into their own, and really those are the 3 albums I think that really kind of, like I said, cemented their legendary status. But you also see a progression where they started out on their first record, they were really aggressive and punky. Hootenanny, you start to see them incorporate elements more of like songwriting and being a little bit more thoughtful about it and not just kind of like go for the throat punk. And over the course of Let It Be and Tim, you start to see them move more in that direction while still retaining that punk vibe and element that really made you kind of check them out in the first place. And they're also the last 3 records that their original guitar player, Bob Stinson, played on. And you really see how Paul Westerberg, their lead singer and songwriter, really came into his own as a as a songwriter and as a singer and as a player, and it's really just it's great pop music, but with that real punk and kind of sloppy vibe that makes punk music so cool. So
2 questions: how many albums deep were they before we get to your first choice, and how many came after your last choice? Just for people that may not be that familiar with the Replacements.
So the Replacements had one record before Hootenanny called "Sorry Ma, Forgot to Take Out the Trash," and then they recorded
"Pleased to Meet Me."
"Pleased to Meet Me" came out after Tim, and then after that was "Don't Tell a Soul" and "All Shook Down." So there was one record before and 3 records after. But Bob Stinson,
not a huge discography, but kind of
but really, I mean, they were like, Musician Magazine named them like one of the best bands of the '80s. And the thing about them, that those 3 records, is that I like about them is that it's Westerberg becoming that songwriter, but he still has Bob Stinson kind of keeping him, who's the original lead guitar player, kind of keeping him into that like punk world a little bit while he blossoms. It was like the right mix, and then right after Tim is when Bob Stinson left the band. So the records after are great, but not as good as those 3.
I'm going to throw everybody a curveball for this. Also, pick and what everybody's going to do is now out of those 3, pick one.
Let It Be is definitely will always be my probably my favorite Replacements record.
I think that's fun. Since we narrowed it down to 3, there's got to be one in there that kind of is anchoring it. So you're saying the middle one.
Yep.
Let It Be is the one for you. So
yep. Let It Be is my favorite Replacements album.
And Chris keeps on sending me, when he sends me titles, he sends me the Replacements. So I think we need to get to a Replacements album. I think we will.
I really think you would dig Let It Be, Dean.
I don't know if we could do Let It Be, because then if we do Let It Be, then we do the Beatles Let It Be, then it's going to be confusing.
Well, that's why that album
I might listen to the wrong album.
That's why they named that album Let It Be, is to take their manager was a huge Beatles fan, and they were doing it to take the piss out of him.
Yep. All right, so the Replacements are the first, and that's a band. I'm kind of tracking some of this too. All those albums came out in the 80s.
They all came out in the 80s, so 82 through, I believe it's either 85 or 86, if memory serves.
Okay, great. All right, Eric, let's hear it. I have
all right, number 5.
Thoughts and predictions in my head, so I'm waiting to hear what you got.
So the reason I asked you, Chris, why if you talked about this with your bro is because I think not too long ago we did an episode with Jonathan, and we talked about Dave Matthews Band, and we were discussed the first 3 Dave Matthews records, and I thought that's where the idea might have blossomed in that sense, because I think, Dean, you had mentioned, we need to do a 3 album. That would be a really great.
That might have been it
episode.
It's funny you should bring that up, because I had the list all laid out.
Yeah.
And one of the ones I originally had on it, and I was talking to my brother about it. He goes, well, I would do those 3 Dave Matthews records because to me, they're, Dave Matthews is one of his favorite bands, but he talked about why. And then I thought about it. I said, if anybody's going to have them besides me, it would be Eric. So I'm going to.
There you go.
That gives me the opportunity to.
Well, you know what? He might be trolling us. He hasn't actually said anything yet.
I know exactly which one he's going to go.
No, they're Dave Matthews, but it's the first 3: Under the Table and Dreaming, Crash, Before These Crowded Streets, which were monsters. I mean, all 3
amazing
are just
records. All 3
phenomenal. I got into them with Crash. That was my first experience with them, and then I went back and listened to Under the Table. Of course, I knew Ants Marching and that kind of thing. And then by the time you get to the 3rd, such an ambitious record, dark, sinister, guest stars all over that album. It was, I thought it was big and bold, and it was just sort of moving in a new direction, and so I really appreciated this. And fun fact, I never saw them live.
Wow, really?
So, no, never. So never been, never had to. I've probably had many opportunities, but these 3 albums, and I don't think they've put out a bad album, period. They've 10 albums total, 7 of which went number 1. That's no easy feat, I think. They peaked at number 1 on the Billboard charts. So, I mean, that's we're talking, I like their later stuff as well. I almost went with that as well, just to kind of, be different. Because I really dig something like Gru Crux King and, a couple of the albums after that. Yeah. So, with the change in personnel, and we lost some members, and, so there was this, sort of a fresh sound. Different producers also played a big role. In this case, the Lily White was, pretty much, they worked with Rob Cavallo. They worked with Glenn Ballard of all people. So it was, so they're just an amazing band, and just one of those bands that you can always count on putting out just a good record, period. I mean, even if some are better than others, but these three were, probably
they're
the pinnacle. They're just, they're all three are perfect in my book.
And the only one they ever played live from beginning to end was Before These Crowded Streets. So
I'm not surprised. Yeah. Cause that thing is just, it almost feels like that could be a thing, like a concept of some sort. I don't know what that is, but yeah. So,
and those are all in the 90s.
Yeah. Yep.
Right? Okay.
So
which out of those three, which one are you picking?
I think Crowded Streets. I think, like I said, it's their most ambitious. I think the first two are very similar in terms of like the very, very, sort of up tempo type tracks, and some tracks that last a little bit longer. They blend into one another. Crowded Streets had a much darker approach, I feel. I think it's a very dark album.
It
But
is.
the strings, you have people like Alanis Morissette are on there, Bella Fleck on banjo. They had a string section on there, the Kronos Quartet, I believe it is, and it's just it made for a whole different vibe, and that's what he was going for. And I think it kind of put him in a state of depression, actually, because I think it was what the album was meant to be after that. They couldn't do, which became the Lily White Sessions.
Yep.
Yeah, I think a lot of the tracks ended up on Busted Stuff. But that's where Every Day came from. So it was just a complete 360 of doing a more pop approach. And that's what kind of kept them going, because he needed to do that, I think, at that time. So,
and really you kind of think like that 3-album cycle,
yeah,
like Crowded Streets is like, it's almost like we took this as far as it can go. So now like, where are we going to go next?
Yeah.
Right. Yeah.
And sometimes that's what cycles represent is sometimes it's the beginning of something, or it's a transition, or it's the end of something. So it's DMB. So Eric, put that on your bucket list. Then you got to start looking at what is it called?
I know.
Bands in Town. You got to go to Bands in Town and when they're coming.
I know.
And then you got to
I'm way behind. I'm way behind, man.
All right.
Yeah.
Rob D, should we try and guess who your first pick is going to be? Would this be an exercise in futility, or would it be too obvious?
I don't know, because my first pick is a band, at least in what I've come across, has people who really love them and people who really hate them. And I'm one of the ones that obviously that fall in the place of I really like this band a lot.
I was going to say Nickelback, but everybody hates Nickelback, so there actually is nobody that likes them. So I'm sorry.
And I've seen them open for Bon Jovi. They're actually pretty good live.
Go ahead, Rob. Sorry. What do you got?
And the band I chose was U2.
Okay. Wow. Okay.
I'm in that former category of not a fan.
Okay. And the albums I chose were Joshua Tree, Rattle and Hum, and Achtung Baby.
Okay.
And I have seen U2 in concert, and I do have to say that they put on a damn good show. I saw them at Yankee Stadium. I saw them at the Meadowlands. I've seen a few Madison Square Garden. I'll be honest with you, I don't know why people dislike them so much. I mean, they're good musicians. They write good songs. I mean, I don't like Bono's politics and stuff. That sort of gets involved probably more later in their career. But to me, Joshua Tree, starting that off, before that album, they were known. They had their following. They had some good songs on albums. But Joshua Tree, I think, was that album that put them on the top. And between Joshua Tree, Rattle and Hum, and Achtung Baby, I think you'd be hard-pressed in that late 80s, early 90s period to find a more successful band at that time period. U2 had that probably that 5 or 6 year period between the 80s and early 90s where you heard them and you saw them everywhere. They were always on the radio.
Yeah.
And Joshua Tree, Rattle and Hum, I think they all had a lot of singles that were pretty popular coming off of those albums.
Yeah, they did.
And yeah, and like I like their earlier stuff too, but I think Joshua Tree through Achtung Baby, they sort of grew up and got a little more mature in their music.
Cool. Well, before we give Chris a chance to hate, I picked U2 for my pick, and I picked those 3 albums as well. So I'm going to jump in. I'm going to jump in and give Rob some support. and the reason why those 3 albums in particular is like Rob said, the Joshua Tree was so huge. And before that, you had Pride in the Name of Love, and U2 had a particular sound, and maybe that's what people got annoyed with, or that there was just like this image of them as really righteous, and Joshua Tree was so huge that Rattle and Hum is almost like an in-betweener album. It's like, well, what do we do now? Because it came out the next year. Yeah. Right? So they did a documentary. They went around to America. We want to see what American music is like. So it's half live, half studio, which is great. You kind of got a feel for what the U2 experience is about. And then Achtung Baby, which we did an episode about, was an amazing record because it was a band on the precipice of breaking up. A band that did not know what the next move would be, should be, or even could be until they got into the studio together and figured it out, and then charted a brand new course. They totally tore down the U2 sound and revamped it for the 90s. So for me, this, the way, Chris Clark will say is this is like a pivot trio of albums, right? This was where they were huge, but they got so huge that, there was some backlash of, oh my God, like U2 again, like Bono, yep. I'm tired of his hair, tired of the ponytail. And that's what, so Rattle and Hum was a big album, but it was kind of a smaller album. It was kind of a little more low key. And then we get something as just crazy and different as Achtung Baby, which was just amazing. So for me, it was that picked because of the transition they were in, where the band was in and the trouble was in. Now, Chris, in 2 sentences, why do you hate U2?
Well, I don't hate. I feel like, I don't know, they're a little too self-righteous for me sometimes, the way they come off. And there are I nitpick certain songs, but I can't. I don't like them wholesale. I don't. Okay. It's just not my thing, I guess. But yeah, Bono always Bono always annoyed me too. But that's just another. I guess I shouldn't let that.
Do they get points? Because I was actually thinking about this the other day, real quick. Do they get points for longevity? Do they get points for not having ever broken up? Do they get points for never replacing a member?
Yeah, I would say that's pretty impressive. Think, in this day and in rock and roll, that's pretty impressive.
Yeah. Okay, Rob D, which album out of the 3 are you picking?
I love all 3, but if I had a gun to my head to pick one, it would probably be Joshua Tree.
Okay. I'll go with Achtung Baby would be the one I would pick out of that 3. All right. Well, we've gone through our first round and we've already had one connection. I know there are more on the horizon to be had. Uh-huh. That was a nice flow because it was my turn next anyway, so I was able to go in and buttress and support him against the backlash Chris was
he set me up for that though, man. You know what? I'm in that category.
He trapped me all night. Check.
He beat me.
Mr. Son of Beach.
Pay that man his money.
He beat me. Straight up. Pay him.
I love that scene.
Pay that man his money. Okay, Chris, what do you got for number 4?
So this one is for my son, because my son kind of rekindled my interest in this band, and that is Radiohead.
Wow, that's your son. Okay.
My son really digs Radiohead, believe it or not. And the 3 records, independent of me, so I don't know how but I started listening to them a bit again. I've always loved the album The Bends, and then OK Computer. And after OK Computer, you had Kid A. And what I love about this this set of 3 albums is that they kind of build on each other. Like you see where they're going in OK Computer when you listen to The Bends, but it still retains a little bit more of that rock and roll and hard rock vibe that they had on their first album. And then as you start to progress, you see like Kid A, what was I gonna say? I'm blanking on the name of the record now. But on that second record, you start to see them.
OK Computer.
OK Computer. I don't know why I blanked on that. OK Computer. You start to see them become a little bit more experimental and incorporate a lot of more of that experimental vibe and stuff. And then they really kind of take it to its nadir on Kid A. But it's still that record is just incredible. Like what they're able to do and move beyond the typical guitar, bass, drums that they started out with. And then after that, I kind of lose the plot, and I really didn't go much beyond that with them. But those 3 records always kind of stuck with me. And they're just amazing music, amazing songwriting, and really on all 3 records, not being afraid to take chances, which I always thought was very cool. And if I'm going to pick one of those 3, it would definitely be the Bends for sure.
Cool. Which one has Creep on it?
Creep is on the first record, Pablo Honey.
Okay.
Yeah.
Sorry.
Which is not a very good record, actually.
Oh, okay.
I don't think
it's terrible, but
compared to it's probably the best song on the album.
But what they did with the Bends is just like top to bottom. Like I would have loved if they would have stayed like doing what they did on the Bends and OK Computer. Like then when you start getting like I said, Kid A is a great record, but then it just, to me, it almost became too out there after that. Like it hit its peak in Kid A, and it's just an interesting progression to watch what they did on those.
Exactly, my son's into them as well, and his choice would have been the Bends, as you know. So he really digs those 3 records right there. That progression.
And as an aside, one of my favorite music videos ever made was from a song on the Bends called "Just."
Maybe we got to do a kids episode.
Yeah,
yeah.
The legacy, the next
I have none, so I'll just host.
But I'll never forget my son, like being in the car with my kid, and he's like, "Dad, could you put on Paranoid Android or Karma Police?" I forget which one it was, and I was like, "What?" Like I turned to look at him. I'm like, "Where did that come from?" So,
and then you said, "I'm proud of you, son."
Well, his uncle was very proud because my brother's a big Radiohead fan.
Cool. All right, Radiohead making an appearance on the list. Eric,
I think by default, I got to go with Hendrix. The big 3. Obviously, I'm unfortunately, a lot of posthumous stuff, but those 3, major releases of Are You Experienced, Bold as Love, Axis Bold as Love, Electric Ladyland, all 3 distinct. The first one was a tour de force debut. You had, just so much good stuff on that. And then of course he kind of scales it back a little bit with Bold as Love. It's more, a little bit mellower, and it's soulful, and it's like, so there's a slight change there. But then of course with Electric Ladyland, each side of that record, if you listen to the vinyl, is a different experience. I think you get something different each time. If you listen to it all the way through, you might not get it that way, but vinyl is the ultimate way to listen to Electric Ladyland. So, because each side represents a different side of Hendrix. Experimental, you got the sort of poppy stuff that he did on, the first album. Then you have the, just the sort of like jamming, long form kind of stuff. And then, then he started going in a newer direction by side 4 with, Watchtower and things like that. So, and you're left with the question, the big question, age-old question is what might have been, right? And had he survived, and what kind of music would he have been doing? So that always gets me thinking after I'm done listening to all 3 of these records. So if I had to choose, I probably would go with the first album, just because it's just such a formidable debut. It's just so great.
All three of those albums are on a constant rotation on my phone when I'm listening to them. Those always pop up on my phone.
Yeah,
and I always listen to them.
Wow. I just saw a short clip of Hendrix. He was playing on the BBC in England.
Mm-hmm.
And he was playing a song, and then after the song, he was supposed to the British artist Lulu was supposed to come out, and he was supposed to sing a duet with her, and he didn't want any of that. And the footage is that he finishes his song, and then he says, we're not going to play any of this pop stuff or whatever, but I want to play something. And he talks about Eric Clapton and Cream, and they start playing Sunshine of Your Love.
Yeah, it's so cool.
And the camera cuts him off. They cut the broadcast. So there's like maybe 2 minutes of this performance, and you can see Hendrix you could see that he sees that the guys are cutting it off, and he's kind of like shaking his head no, and then the feed just dies.
Wow.
They're like, we're not having this, but he was like, yeah, you are having it. You're having it. I'm giving it to you.
Yeah.
Cool. All right, Rob D. What you got?
All right. My next one, I'm going to the early 1980s. 1980, 81, and 83.
Wow.
And I'm going with the Police.
Ooh.
Zenyatta Mondatta, Ghost in the Machine, and then Synchronicity. I think those three, because I think all three albums are great, and I think they sort of build up, and it's great because I think the Police went out on top with Synchronicity. You know,
Absolutely.
I think probably one of the reasons why they did break up is, I mean, obviously Stingo and Solo, but they
couldn't stand each other too. There's that.
And where would you go
Sting
from
and Copeland just hated each other. Yeah, no doubt. I'm gonna jump in because my number 3 would have been the first 3 Sting solo records, which is.
Hang on to that then. No,
okay.
Hang on to that. Yeah, no, that's a separate thing. I have the Police. And I have those very same 3 records again.
Okay.
Rob and I are creating a coalition that is unbreakable. You keep your Sting solo for later. You send him.
All right.
He gets his own time. We're going to talk about the dysfunctional family known as the Police.
and no, it's so great to go onto YouTube to watch their videos from that era. Before Synchronicity, every single one of their videos was like exactly the same. There's the 3 of them jumping around.
Yeah, just sitting in front of a camera and goofing. I picked the exact same 3, and it was my next choice too. Eric is a huge Police fan and a huge Sting fan, and obviously we're gonna get to that. And only 5 albums, and you could probably someone else could make a case for the first 2, but I think that the back 3 there's enough variation because Zenyatta Mondatta, and Eric can maybe verify this thought. Zenyatta Mondatta has enough in common with the previous 2.
Absolutely.
That you kind of you get that one, you're good. Ghost in the Machine is the experimental, the dark. The different stuff, and then Synchronicity is just the home run. It's like they just lobbed it in, and they just swung for the fences and hit it out, and then they just imploded. And that's probably the best. It was probably the best way to end it. It's just like, we're on top. We're not getting along anyway. Why do something more that's just going to be shit? Because they did when they did Don't Stand So Close to Me.
Oh, so bad. Yeah, it's awful.
That was.
So it was kind of like they understood, like we're not getting along, and we make fantastic music together, but this is just untenable.
Yeah.
But the music they made, those 5 albums, it's like people still talk about the Police, and they really talk about them mainly for Every Breath You Take, which is just like
Mondatta. I mean, it's squarely right down. It splits the 2 halves in the middle. Yeah. Right. So, and it's it's a really decent record, but it's for me it's but like you say, like by the time you get to Ghost in the Machine, which was so different, so and then Synchronicities that taking that experimentation and refining it into perfect blended songs and just hitting the mark every time. Yeah, phenomenal run. Yep.
All right, Rob, what one are you picking out of the 3?
Yeah, that was a tough one. If I had to give the edge, I would probably give it to Ghost in the Machine, because I love Spirits in the Material World and Invisible Sun. Those 2 songs.
Invisible
awesome.
Sun is great.
I love that.
Yeah, you know what? I'm obviously Synchronicity is a great album, but I'm going to agree with you that Ghost in the Machine, because that was the one I was kind of brought up on. That was really, I was dating someone at the time, and that's all she played from the Police. It was just kind of like you getting a musical education, and there's just some great stuff on there, dark stuff, different tones, different textures. That you're not used, especially when you're used to Don't Stand So Close to Me, and you're used to the do. And this stuff is decidedly a little bit darker edge. So I'll go with Ghost in the Machine as well. So
yeah.
All right, Rob. Our coalition. Will our coalition make it to number 3, or will the coalition break down? Will Sting shatter through and destroy it like he destroyed the Police? The only way we're going to find out is to go to number 3. Mr. Christopher Clark, what do you have?
I'm going with 3 of the most important records to punk rock ever recorded, and that is The Ramones by the Ramones, Leave Home by the Ramones, and Rocket to Russia. The Ramones, those 3 records from the first song on Ramones to the last song on Rocket to Russia, it's just perfect punk. It's all and it's got that still has that vibe from the 60s, those early 60s singles that kind of inspired them. All the songs have sing-alongable choruses. They're talking about life in Queens and life in New York and some of the grittier side, but with these really upbeat, singable punk songs. And it's just amazing from beginning to end. I remember Henry Rollins once saying we could solve the problems in the Middle East by giving the Israelis the first Ramones record, and then giving the Palestinians Leave Home, and then they would want to talk about the Ramones records because they would hear each other blasting this music and just be so enamored by these albums that there would be peace in the Middle East.
Interesting.
I just always thought it was a really hilarious thing. I mean, and it's just the intensity of that band. I mean, and after that, I'll probably get, if anybody hears this as a Ramones fan, I think they really kind of fall off after this record. Mm-hmm. I mean, there's still some good stuff in the records that follow, but nothing that was ever as powerful or as influential as those first 3 Ramones records.
And they had quite a few.
Yeah, they did.
Yeah,
a ton of records.
Yeah, and I mean, that's when they were hungry, and that's when they were gritty and dirty in those first 3. When
Tommy Ramone's still playing
popular,
drum.
Right? They kind of start to get a shine on them, right?
Yeah.
A polish, and it's hard.
Well, they worked with Phil Spector and stuff. Yeah.
Yeah. So. Green Day is one of the few that consistently tries to fight against it. Just kind of, we're big, we're huge, but we still, want to do some things that shake it up. So let me guess, the first album is what you would pick?
I would probably honestly, I would think Rocket to Russia is probably my favorite because it's got it's got some of the more memorable tunes on it. Like I love their cover of I know this is a silly song, but I love their cover of Bird is the Word. Rockaway Beach, which to me has one of the best opening lines in any song, shows you what a great lyricist Joey Ramone is. Chewing out a rhythm on my bubblegum. You could just see somebody walking down the street getting ready to go to the beach. Sheena is a punk rocker is always a big one because me and my friends used to watch that Pet Sematary movie over and over when we were kids, and that's in the Pet Sematary movie. And then you have Teenage Lobotomy, which is an amazing song too, and a really cool cover of Do You Want to Dance. So I always thought Rocket to Russia was probably my favorite Ramones album of all time for sure.
Nice. Yeah, we did an episode about the first album with Mr. John Irizarry, who lived it down there, he jammed with the Ramones. So you can go check out that episode and see thoughts from a guy who lived it.
And all 3 of those records came out within a space of a year between 76 and 77. So.
Yeah, I mean, the songs are literally 2 minutes and 2 seconds. So
they're all 30-minute albums.
And if you're doing I'm not to besmirch them, but and then covers, it's easy to kind of. But we had talked about that in the episode, how they were clever with their covers, and people thought they were subversive or anti-authoritarian, but no, they were just a band with a raw sound, but still a foot firmly in their influences.
I mean, those covers are things that you would have, if you were a kid in the early 60s, you would have heard those songs on a transistor radio. Yeah. So it definitely is the stuff they grew up listening to, but also again, still being able to talk about the seedier side of life with songs about sniffing glue or turning tricks to get drugs and in
53rd and Third,
right? All this really poppy, but gritty music. They were brilliant.
Yeah, slice of life band from New York.
Yep.
Mm-hmm. All right, Eric, we're ready for the stinger, the Stingman,
yes, you many people do not like his solo output. He's a dweeb. He's pretentious. What's he doing is mediocre. I love those first 3 records. I thought it was because at the time, you didn't realize it. And that would be Dream of the Blue Turtles, Nothing Like the Sun, and the Soul Cages. That run for me, and then after that, it was just the 90s output for me was just kind of very bland, aside from 10 Sumner's Tales, which I liked a lot. But after that, it was just, he kind of fell off, but I just love the jazz approach that he took. I really like the fact that he was working with these really great musicians, and the sort of bringing in the sort of cultural thing, and just working with black musicians, and that whole vibe was great. And it wasn't free, it wasn't exactly pure jazz, much to Wynton Marsalis's chagrin. I mean, he gave Branford shit for working with Sting. Like, how dare you go against the pure form and work with this guy? Like, but it was great stuff, man. It was catchy. It was we talked about Blue Turtles. We did that episode, but I really out of the three, I used to think Nothing Like the Sun was fantastic. I loved his cover of Little Wing on there. He did it with Gil Evans and his orchestra, great jazz composer, and and just such, Andy Summers played on the record, was produced by Neil Dorfman, who did Brothers in Arms. So really great production value on that record. But I think I'm going to go with Soul Cages at this point, because I really dug the whole personal thing that he came writing songs about his dad. And it was again, a very more ambitious, heavy record, serious. And there was some great jazz numbers on there. I think that, just really sort of kicked it out of the park. And it wouldn't, he wouldn't get any better than that as far as that goes, after that album, in my opinion. So, so those three, I really did. The 80s output, and no, I don't prefer Sting over the Police. I love the Police, just for the record, but,
well,
there you
I
go.
think you when you first started off defending Sting, saying people thought he was pretentious and this and that.
No, I love that. I love the stuff, but
I know, but you said how people think that. So I think we need to ask the resident hater, the Bono hater.
Right away.
What do you? What,
myself if you that role now.
If you hate Bono, do you hate Sting?
So I've come around on Sting in my old age.
Oh, nice.
Like I really got into the Police in a big bad way, like in high school and college, and then I was always that one of those people. Okay, once I'm done with Synchronicity, that's it. I'm done, and then. My brother and I have been doing this thing every month where we'll pick a theme and listen to a bunch of records from a given theme. And one time my brother picked 1985 and put Dream of the Blue Turtles on the list. And I'm like, okay, I guess I finally have to listen to this, and maybe I should listen with an open mind because Dean and Eric like it so much. And I was blown away by how much I like Dream of the Blue Turtles. It really is a phenomenal record. And I guess I should probably listen to more of his output, but that record really did stick with me.
Well, how about this? Maybe one of the when you and your brother do that thing for the month, one of the themes should be "I Hate Bono," and you listen to the.
I just can't.
And then you change your mind. You'll understand
exactly.
I can't. There's something about U2, man. And there's there's genuinely songs by them I like. I love the song from the Batman Forever movie. I love that song Gloria. Like there are songs throughout I love some of the songs on How to Dismantle an Atomic Bomb.
Okay, so later.
But it's just it's only I pick and I cherry pick. Like I've never been able to sit through a whole.
Right. We'll get you. We'll get you. We will eventually get you. If Sting was able to work his way in, if he was able to walk through the fields of gold to get to you, I think Bono can do the same. So
we'll see.
Rob D, what do you have? Do you have what I have next?
I'm not sure. I'm going back in time a little more.
Okay.
And I'm going back to 1967.
I'm out.
With the Doors.
Okay. Ooh.
The Doors.
Nice. Yeah.
Their first album, Strange Days and Waiting for the Sun.
Interesting.
In my opinion,
make the case.
I'm a huge Doors fan. Any three Doors albums together to me would be, but I picked those because my favorite songs from the Doors are in those three albums.
Okay.
I think the Doors' first album could arguably be one of the greatest debut albums of any band. they everybody, when you think about it, they came out in 1967, and everybody, people today know those Doors songs. They come on the radio, and the younger generation knows them too. I don't think there's a bad song on that first album. In fact, I listened to it just 2 days ago. I was listening to that whole album. Strange Days, like it's tough when you're such a big fan of a band. I mean, what some people may see as like a weaker song, I don't see it. There's no bad song on those albums to me. They all have their place there. And the first album, The Doors, that would be my favorite of the three.
Okay.
You didn't say anything about Waiting for the Sun. That's like one of my favorites. It's so mellow and it's so like chill, and
that's my son Zach's favorite.
It's so summery and it's so like California.
Yeah. I do
Love Street and
my favorite song on that album is actually 5 to 1.
Yeah.
It's my
There you go. Yeah, you know what? I don't have the Doors at all, oddly enough, but I would have, if I did, I would have picked the back three.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
It would have been Soft Parade, Morrison Hotel, and LA Woman.
That probably would have been mine too.
Or Waiting for the Sun, Soft Parade, and Morrison Hotel. Not that I don't like the first two, but they're very psychedelic and it's very much of its time, and I kind of, but no, great choice. So, and you'd say the first album is the one you'd take with you?
Yeah. Yep.
That's a perfect record from top to bottom. There's nothing bad about that album at all. Yeah.
End of the Night.
Mother, yes, son.
Right, Crystal Ship. A lot of,
yeah.
The band was literally around for 4 years, maybe 3.5 years. And to have that amount of output and that amount of
the Police and the Doors, they very short careers, those two bands.
Yeah.
But they made huge impacts,
Yeah, they did.
And even Hendrix in the 3 years that Hendrix was alive.
Yeah, Hendrix. Great. All right, my band has had a longer career than those. And I'm going to have to break the coalition and stand on my own for this one. I have one where I'm standing by myself. And the albums came out in 88, 91, and 92, and the band is REM. And the albums are Green, Out of Time, and Automatic for the People.
Great choice.
And what a set of albums that I went through and experienced at the time. When Green came out in 88, I was kind of working at Crazy Eddie. I was working, in a record store and kind of being and starting to listen to things that weren't just pop music, but things that had something to say. And Green was a big thing. Orange Crush, Hair Shirt. There was so much stuff on that album that I was listening to when it came out. That was different. It was different. It was different stuff. It had not that music doesn't have meaning, but this was something that was different than my normal lanes, and then for them to come out with Out of Time, which was just kind of all poppy and fun and shimmery. And then to take another turn with Automatic for the People, which is just like a masterpiece. I mean,
it's a great record.
Yeah, they were just so good and so adept at understanding themselves as a band and like what they wanted to do. Another band that really didn't, Bill Berry left because he was ill and just kind of, had enough of the life, but there was no acrimony. They all stayed together. They just kind of, just soldiered on, and they just, they mastered music video. They mastered media. They just were very thoughtful in everything they did.
Did what they wanted to do. Like, didn't really listen to anybody but themselves.
Yeah. Yeah. They just kind of like, they survived grunge, right? That tidal wave, they kind of, they marshaled that storm and just kind of came out and just kind of kept doing, being genuine. They didn't say, well, we need to make a grunge album. We need to respond. Like REM never responded to anything. I think that's a good statement. They never made music in response to other types of music, or we want to go through this. They just kind of did things that were squarely REM, right? If it was a pop song like the Sidewinder Sleeps Tonight, like a fun thing, and then it's something as that'll rip your heart out, like Everybody Hurts.
Yeah.
It's just, so if I'm going to pick one, this is hard. But I'm going to go with probably with Out of Time, because it's just it's easy for me to put it on and listen to, and just kind of and it sits in the middle. It sits right in between them, the other two. So I think for me it's a good choice. So there you go.
Nice.
REM.
Nice.
Great.
Green, Out of Time, Automatic for the People. All right, we're on number 2. Christopher Clark, what do you got?
So this is, if Andy were here, this would probably be his number 1. So my number 2 is the first 3 albums by Metallica: 1983's Kill 'Em All, 1985's Ride the Lightning, and 1986's Master of Puppets, which are the only 3 records that their bassist Cliff Burton got to play on. And you not only are all 3 of them like perfect metal records, you also see a progression in the songwriting and the influence of Cliff Burton successively in each one. Like, he didn't write any of the songs on the first album, so it's a little bit more of like go for the throat thrash metal. And then the second record, you see them incorporating his understanding of like classical music and music theory into songs like The Call of Cthulhu, or his bass playing on a song like For Whom the Bell Tolls. And then Master of Puppets is just like the peak of everything that they did with him. Like, the beautiful song like Orion, a song like Master of Puppets that's in various movements. And they all had a really big impact on me growing up as a little metalhead kid. And they really are just perfect records that are still very heavy in the rotation of my listening today. I listen to them all the time and appreciate all 3 of them as much now as I did then, if not more so. And if I had to pick one of the 3, Master of Puppets is always going to be not just one of my favorite Metallica albums, but one of my favorite albums of all time. So,
now, do you think after the passing of Cliff Burton, what was for you as a listener for the album that came out after that? Was there a noticeable difference for you?
The biggest difference is that when they recorded it, they mixed it in such a way that there's almost inaudible bass on it. So, but as far as like music wise, it's
songwriting content.
Songwriting, I still think his influence is there. It's still very much a thrash metal record, but it became much more progressive and technical than like they were using music theory and like classical and all those kinds of things on those 3 records. But they almost took it too far, and I feel like some of the songs might have gotten a little bit longer, and that. And Justice for All is like, okay, we're going to take this as far as we're going to go. And that's why the next record was the Black Album, which was much more, tighter songs, much more of a standard pop song structure for a metal song. But those first 4 albums are all amazing records, and all are probably still, again, my 4 favorite Metallica albums. But I feel like they were still trying to do what they did with Cliff on that last. In fact, there are lyrics of his that are on that. There's a song on there that he helped to write before he died. So,
okay, cool.
But yeah, Master of Puppets is
Metallica. That's for you, Andrew Cremines, if you're listening. He just has that. If Chris really wants to kind of get in good with Andy, his number 1's got to be Ozzy or Kiss.
No,
so we'll wait and see.
Quite the opposite. Although I do want Andy to come and talk to one of my classes, so I guess maybe I should make it one of those.
That's right. Not a bad idea. Okay, Eric, number 2. What do you got?
Okay. Well,
are you going there?
See, this is where I'm a little.
You know what I mean when I say that?
Because I want to say something, but I can't. I guess I can't. Because the rules are maybe a little rigid at this point. So I have to go. I'm going to have to say, Talking Heads.
Okay.
But I was going to say Remain in Light, Speaking in Tongues, and then Little Creatures. But skipping over Stop Making Sense because it's a live album and it plays like.
All right.
But I'm going to go with
that's okay.
Speaking in Tongues, because I became a fan because of Stop Making Sense. So we did a whole episode on that. So I'll go Remain in Light, Stop Making Sense, and Little Creatures. That's probably my favorite period.
Mm-hmm.
I really do like Remain in Light. But the songs the way they've done on Stop Making Sense, I actually prefer. I like the more sort of soulful, bringing in the other musicians on a lot of those songs. A lot of those songs seemed a little bit more rigid for me on the studio, but I like the flow of the songs that they when they perform them live on Stop Making Sense. But so there you go. And then by the time you get to Little Creatures, it's a change. It's like it's a very sort of very analog, acoustic, sort of real. Just there's no more electronics. There's no more sort of like that sort of experimental kind of stuff they were doing. Sort of funky. Now we're getting into some what I would consider more of sort of like an indie band feel, kind of leaning into sort of in that territory of just sort of a poppy feel. But it had a great vibe on that record. I really dug that album a lot. So
much like REM, Talking Heads, right? They bent the audience to their will.
Yep.
They didn't pander to the as weird as they're even farther on the weird scale, right? But not weird for the sake of weirdness, right, Eric? It was weird for the sake of just this is who we are, and these are the sounds we like to make, and that collision of music and art.
Yeah.
When I think of Talking Heads, right, it's kind of like,
and I mean after that it became the David Byrne Show. It was True Stories. It was
Naked.
Naked. That was pretty much the end for the band. So it was just more him, and which is fine. I love his his output with Utopia and all that kind of stuff, the American Utopia and all that's what he's doing right now. Artsy kind of avant-garde kind of stuff. I dig that. But as a band, I think that they reached that peak. I think with Little Creatures, that was probably like for me their last really great album. So.
And which one are you taking with you?
Well, it's got to be Stop Making Sense, because that's that is the one.
Covers,
I mean,
covers a lot.
Both the film, it pretty much is their history right there in one shot. It's a great film. It's a great soundtrack, great live album. I mean, it just the whole package. Yeah. So
it hits them all. Hits them all.
Yep.
Right. Well, Rob D, do you have Talking Heads? You're kind of looking and smirking like,
No Talking Heads. No.
Okay. No. All right. What's it going to be?
There's no way you could have a list like this without a band like this. And it's going to be the Rolling Stones.
Hey.
And I'm going to cheat. I don't know if this is cheating.
You know what? As soon as someone says that, it's cheating. Because it is. What do you mean, I don't know? You either know or you don't know.
Because I wanted to start with Beggar's Banquet.
Okay.
Amen.
And then let it bleed.
Okay.
But then I also wanted to go to Sticky Fingers.
See, that was what I almost put that on my list, and that's exactly what I struggled with.
Yeah, but what was in between?
There's the live album. Yaya's out.
Okay, so that's fine. You're going to skip the live album. That's fine.
Yeah, that album, that live album is great.
Just know that you're a cheat.
But I wanted to stick with it. I mean, because Through the Past Darkly, the greatest hits also came in.
Yep.
And there also.
Okay, so Beggar's Banquet, Let It Bleed, and Sticky Fingers. Okay.
I think in that late 60s, early 70s period of the Stones, you could combine, you could go to, It's Only Rock and Roll or Goat's Head Soup, and you could conclude those in a three-way, and I think you would still be good. But I had to get Beggar's Banquet in. It's probably one of my favorite albums of all time. Brian Jones was still in the mix there, so I'm a big Brian Jones fan. it's also strange to think of albums back then that like the big hits like Jumpin' Jack Flash technically isn't on that album. It was just a single, so it's not technically on that album, which is weird. But I think an album like Beggar's Banquet, it sort of, that was like an album I think that sort of separated the Stones from all the other British invasion bands and stuff like that, and it just put them on a completely different pedestal. I love the bluesy part of that album. If you ask me, Beggar's Banquet, Let It Bleed, and Sticky Fingers, you could almost interchange the songs from each of the albums and put them on other albums, and they all still work together. I think it's also when the Stones sort of started to get like a formula for their albums.
Well, they had like that's by that time they had gotten out of the shadow of the Beatles.
And they sort of put in like they'll always have like a rocker song. They'll always have like a country-esque type of song, a heavy blues song, stuff like that. They sort of, and I think that followed through with a lot of their albums. They sort of had that same formula that definitely worked for them. Mick Taylor came into the fold towards, well, not really, it's part of it. Let It Bleed, Keith Richards was a madman on that album, playing, he had to take over the whole responsibility of Brian Jones not being around, playing all the guitar parts. And it's just, all three of those albums, in my opinion, don't have a weak song. I mean, I still, those three songs are still in my constant rotation when I'm listening. And if I had to pick one, I would definitely go probably with Beggar's Banquet. I love that album.
Nice.
It's unbelievable.
Right. There you go. The Stones represented. Chris, what do you got?
I was going to say, no, just that's those. I think what makes those albums so important, or why those albums became what they became too, is that's when you also get the influence of Jimmy Miller as a producer on the Stones' sound. It's just I think his presence allowed them to go in the direction that they wanted to go to. And if you were to go one record more, the record after Sticky Fingers is Exile on Main Street. And that's one of those sets of records that I always have the argument with my dad and my brother, like, which order would you put these in? How would you rank these four records? Because those are the peak of the Stones at their powers of those four Stones records.
Yeah, the Exile on Main Street, that's one of those albums that critics and everybody always puts as like the number one. I love that album too. I just think the top songs on those other albums are a little bit stronger than the top ones on Exile.
Yeah.
All right, Rolling Stones it is. For my number 2, I'm going to invoke the B word. So if anybody's got it, since we'll be starting a new round after me, feel free to jump in. And it's the Beatles. It was going to happen. It had to happen. It was an eventuality. Eric, you know which 3.
Do I?
Yes, you do. Come on.
Oh goodness. I'm gonna say Rubber Soul, Revolver, and Sgt. Pepper. Or
bingo.
Okay.
No, you don't have to say any more. Rubber Soul, Revolver, and Sgt. Pepper, and they came out a year apart, 65, 66, and 67. A band that they were pretty much putting out an album a year, sometimes 2 albums a year, but I dare say you're not going to find a triumvirate of releases from a band that quickly, right? With that little space in between, that are that different, and not only different but groundbreaking, right? Mm-hmm. And then the final album of the triad, where the band sees that really, would see the pinnacle of what they would do. I mean, obviously not to discount what came after, but this is what they were kind of working towards.
Yeah.
With Sgt. Pepper, that was kind of like the grand statement. And nobody has the Beatles.
You know what?
Really? I'm shocked.
But that would have those three would have been my picks.
I was going to pick the Beatles, but I wanted to be a little different.
Okay.
But the three you picked were the three I was going to pick.
I didn't pick the Beatles because I knew Dean would, and
Chris hates the Beatles.
No, I love the Beatles.
Oh, okay.
My three records would have been Sgt. Pepper, The White Album, and Abbey Road.
Yeah, but that's not in order because Magical Mystery Tour came out after Sgt. Pepper, and that's an album.
Isn't that a singles record?
No, it's an album.
Rubber Soul and
it's an album. It's a full album.
I see. I would have broken the rules then.
Hey, you can't do it.
Rubber Soul and Revolver are my two favorite Beatles albums. So
yeah.
There's no bad songs on those.
That three. I mean, if you handed somebody who didn't know anything about the Beatles, I would just probably hand them that three and be like, "This is going to get you most of the way." You know, it'll get you there. So if I'm going to pick one, geez, Louise, it's got to be Rubber Soul.
Oh,
love that album. Yeah, love. You know, it's one that you can go back to each time and kind of. You know, Revolver is a certain thing. Eric is very partial to that because it's of the trippiness of it and the psychedelic, and Pepper is its own thing. But Rubber Soul is just a cute little, nice, warm album of musicians making great music and maturing. You know, and kind of coming into their own and on the precipice of what would be. So there we go. So that's 4 now. We're at our number ones, and there's some suspiciously absent groups from the list. Will they make an appearance, or have these gentlemen shown some restraint? I doubt there's any restraint. So, Christopher Clark, you're unleashed.
So, to me, this number one is definitely a number one, but much like Rob, with you too, this is an artist you either love or you hate.
I hate it just because you like it. I don't care.
You've done an episode about one of his records. My father loves him. My mom can't stand the idea of him even being one of his records being in her house, and that's Bob Dylan. In the mid '60s, between '65 and '66, you had Bob Dylan record "Bringing It All Back Home," followed by Highway 61 Revisited, followed by Blonde on Blonde. And I don't think you can find 3 more important records in a row in anywhere in the history of rock and roll. I mean, you see Dylan going from being that, folk artist with a guitar and a harmonica to taking his sound and expanding it a little bit on Bringing It All Back Home. And then with each successive album doing that until you get to Blonde on Blonde, which is probably what many consider to be his greatest recorded document, and the album he recorded before he went on that hiatus for a couple of years after his alleged motorcycle accident. And
alleged? What is that? What is that?
Some people think it was that they said he did. You know, I've read where maybe that didn't actually happen, and he just needed to step away for a while because that 66 is where you really get into that whole he's showing up to concerts and people are booing him, and he becomes this lightning rod for controversy a little bit. And, he kind of had that, people almost looked upon him as a speaker of the people. And I'm sure it freaked him out a little bit, but
went electric.
Yeah. And then
he became a pariah.
But I mean, if you go through those records and look at some of the songs, I mean, you've got Subterranean Homesick Blues, Like a Rolling Stone, Highway 61 Revisited, Visions of Joanna, Desolation Row. I mean, I could go on. I mean, it's just those 3 records, some of the most important songs that are still covered and revered today, and really had a major influence on what artists did after he released those 3 albums. I can't speak about them more.
If I was going to pick Dylan, I probably would have picked whatever his Christmas album was and the one before and after.
I almost had Bob Dylan on my list, and it was those same 3 albums.
Yeah. Really? Okay, so Chris, what are you keeping out of those 3? Blonde on Blonde?
Blonde on Blonde would probably be the one that I would think you'd have to keep. I mean, I remember even and it's one of those records. It's just I remember looking at the record when I took it out of, my dad had a bin in his closet when I was a kid of all of his records. I remember pulling that one out, and
it's out of focus.
I remember always listening to that Rainy Day Women track over and over again as a kid, because I thought it was so silly, but the rest of that record, I mean, it's just such good music. Amazing. And I feel very lucky.
You had a Focus album cover.
Yes. And I feel very lucky that I got to see, and I think I've said this before on this. If anybody out there wants to listen to beautiful songs and wants to get past Dylan's voice. There's this female artist named Cat Power that a couple of years ago recorded a live album where she basically recreated the Royal Albert Hall concert, which is basically the greatest hits of those 3 records, essentially. And she plays that concert from top to bottom, and it's some of the most beautiful renditions of those songs I've ever heard.
All right. Robert Zimmerman making an appearance. I would have done Wilburys Volume 1, Wilburys Volume 3, and whatever came after. All right.
Time out of mind.
What do we got for number 1? What's it going to be?
My number 1, The Who. They were always my fucking first rock band. My ultimate rock band, as far as I'm concerned. So for me, it's Who's Next, Quadrophenia, and I think Who by Numbers is a vastly underrated record. Very personal, very after the big rock opera thing, this is Pete Townsend just struggling to hold the band together, and he got very, very personal, very self-deprecating. So it could come across as a sort of a very self-indulgent album, but I think it's probably their last really. For me, one of their last great record before Who Are You, and then after Keith Moon died. But those 3 are so of course it's going to be Quadrophenia as my go-to. But I mean, formidably. I mean, we know the story of Who's Next. We don't have to go there, but it's just for me, it's such a great album. But just the idea that what could have been. And I just love those songs that would have made it on that record, independently of that, that were splintered on compilations galore, and then finally cobbled together with the Lifehouse thing just a few years back. But yeah, they're just such important albums to me. They're just my childhood, and I still to this day. I mean, I can never tire of those records. And again, it's like I've said, you sometimes the art is greater than the band or the personalities involved. And, the Who were just such a crazy band. But I always loved the fact that Pete Townsend was so aware of that. He knew what they became, and he wrote about it. And that's what I fucking loved about him. It's just probably one of my all-time great favorite songwriters, just from that perspective. So yeah, so there you go. There's my number 1.
Quadrophenia is the keeper.
Of course. Yeah, that is
Hang on a second. Hang on. I'm getting a phone call. Peter Gabriel and Steve Hackett. Peter Gabriel and Steve Hackett are calling, Eric. Anything you want to share? Or should I just not pick up the phone?
You know what? I do have an honorable mention.
Okay,
so
there we go. Well, see? He's teasing it. He's teasing it. I love it.
Yeah.
All right, yeah. Rob D, is this any surprise? The new Yardbirds?
Yeah, I don't think it's going to be any surprise.
Neither will mine.
To me, Led Zeppelin is the ultimate. I could have had somebody pick any 3 albums, and I would have been fine with it. But I harken back to the episode I did with you guys with Houses of Holy, and how we talked about that being the hinge album between the early Zeppelin and later Zeppelin. So I went with Zeppelin 4, Houses of the Holy, and Physical Graffiti.
Yeah. Okay.
Like it is, I mean, to me, Led Zeppelin is the ultimate. Physical Graffiti. I could listen these 3 albums I could listen to all the time, every day, throughout the entire year. Zeppelin 4 is obviously the one that everybody knows because of Stairway and things like that. But even going to California, songs like that, just it's so the sonic feeling that it gives you listening to these songs. I could just never get enough of it. And if I had to pick a favorite, which is tough to do, but if I had to pick one, I would pick Physical Graffiti. And for the only reason there's more songs on
I
that
knew
album.
it. It was a double
I was
album.
gonna say that's the right answer.
You're a cheater from top to bottom. He's going for quantity, not quality.
Yeah.
Physical Graffiti is always my desert album because it's more for you there.
And all worth listening.
Fair enough. Hey, Eric took a double album. He took Quadrophenia.
Yeah.
Right. So there's nothing wrong.
Yeah.
Ain't nothing wrong with that. Okay, my number one. What's it going to be?
Of course. Because I had it on my list. I almost had it.
It's
it's
ELO. But what 3 ELO albums will it be? And it's not what you think it is, because I really thought about it.
Yeah.
Everybody would probably pick New World Record, Out of the Blue, and Discovery, or any kind of.
I would have said El Dorado. And was it New World Order? And
no, El Dorado, Face the Music, and
Face
New
the
World
Music.
Record.
Yeah, sorry.
I actually went with Discovery, Time, and Secret Messages.
Wow.
And it's actually 3 albums of a band that's on a popularity decline. Right? These are not like it's not like Rubber Soul and Revolver and all the other ones. All the other albums I think we've talked about have all been like bands on the upswing and reaching the height of their powers. Discovery to Secret Messages was a very interesting time because music was changing and ELO tried to change, with Discovery, they, did things more up tempo. And we talked about Time, which was ahead of its time, really was. And then the outliers like Secret Messages, which, I've been obsessed with. I talk to Eric about it frequently, how obsessed I've become with Secret Messages, only because Eric mentioned Who's Next and the Lifehouse Project and how there was all this material.
Mm-hmm.
Secret Messages was supposed to be a double album. It was supposed to be the final ELO album. It was done. Like, this was done. And he had made it a double album. And if you look at the restored version, which I recommend, like, the songs are like 6 minutes, some are 8 minutes long.
Yeah.
It's actually very, very proggy and not very poppy, to believe it or not. When you listen to the album on a whole and understand what it was,
it's very 80s prog. It is.
Yeah.
It is
where he was, this was
pop. Yeah,
sure. Exactly.
Yeah.
And knowing what I know now about it, all these songs are literally Jeff Lynne saying goodbye to ELO. He's literally, song after song is about leaving. It's about isolation. It's about looking back on things. And I think it's just it's like a hidden masterpiece, so it's easy to pick the Out of the Blues, but I don't think that, and Eric has said it where, if you listen to New World Record, you can listen to Out of the Blue and you'll kind of get much of the same material. So I thought this was a much interesting 3 album cycle of them kind of transitioning, trying to figure things out and, taking a bold step. Eric, what was that?
I love those choices because those albums are very special to me as well.
Yeah.
Of course, I did pick New World Record through Discovery because I just remember that was a fucking box set at one time. I remember them being packaged. Box of their best. It was like a bright green box with the logo, I remember seeing that in the record store and I'm like, what is that? Oh, that's all 3 albums together. I'm like, oh shit. What a collector's item that might have been on vinyl.
Still is.
So yeah. But for sure. But excellent choices. I mean, I love all 3 of those records.
Which one am I going to take with me right now? As of this, I would take Secret Messages with me.
Yeah.
And I'll, I'll use the cheater. I'll go with the cheater because, Secret Messages is a double album and there's a lot more on there. So it's a lot more for me to listen to.
Do you have that on vinyl, Dean?
I do have it on vinyl. I do have it restored. The funny
so it's an official double album then. Jeff
Lynne and the album's been resequenced. So it's not like, it's in the same order as the single album. Yeah. It's been reconfigured into it. There's only one song that's missing that'll never be released, which I have a copy of, which is called, he recorded a song called Beatles Forever, which was a pandering song. It was about how much he loved the Beatles, and he name drops all these songs in there, all these Beatles song titles in there. It's really like, I can understand like right before, because he would work with George Harrison right before this. I can understand it's like, we need to put this song away. It's available on bootlegs. It's out there. It is, I love everything that ELO does, and this was probably the corniest thing.
I always got that impression with Hello Old Friend. There's this very Beatlesque sort of experimental type of stuff happening in that. Almost there's vibes of what Tears for Fears would do with their later stuff. I hear those little string, bursts and things like that. So that's an amazing track. Yeah, I'm glad that he put that back on there.
And
stuff.
everything was reconfigured and reordered. So we'll get to that eventually. So there's our top 5. If we have time for one honorable mention, if we go quickly, we'll have to kind of breeze through it. But that's our top 5. Hit us up on Instagram, Facebook, and YouTube. Let us know what your top 5 3-album runs are. Give us the artist, give us the albums, and then give us the one you would keep out of those 3 if you're to take with you. This has been a great list, but let's close it out with one honorable mention. We'll go quick. Christopher Clark, Destroyer, Love Gun, and
no.
Tales from the Elder.
This was actually Music from the Elder is a great album. But no, this one was on my list for a while, and then I changed it out because I was actually trying to, with my top 5, figure out albums that had a progression. I don't know if this one will qualify, but it's Pink Floyd, Dark Side of the Moon, Wish You Were Here, and Animals. Just 3 of the best. I don't know, prog, psychedelic. I don't know what they would categorize as, but 3 albums that to me just always endure. Albums I always come back to, and albums I always listen to. Just perfectly recorded, beautiful music with some of the best guitar playing ever by David Gilmour. Dark Side was 73. Wish You Were Here was 75, and Animals was 77. The one I'm taking with me would probably be Animals. That was the album. That one actually has grown into being one of my favorite, if not my favorite, Pink Floyd album of all time.
Nice. Wow. I'm glad Amazing. Pink Floyd made an appearance on there. And I would just say on behalf of Roger Waters, he doesn't think that David Gilmour was really all that important to the band. No. That's just a public service announcement, just in defense.
Only one of the greatest guitar players of all time.
Yeah.
Okay, Eric, what do you got? This is the speed round.
Okay. Well, I it would have been in the top 5, but being the rules, but if you think about it, it kind of makes sense. If you're looking at from a standpoint of studio versus live output, I'm going to go with the first 3 Genesis live albums: Genesis, Seconds Out, and 3 Sides Live. They were very
amazing records.
Very important to me in defining each. They were documents of each period of the band. First, obviously, with Gabriel. Second is when Phil Collins took over and Chester Thompson first appeared on drums. Bill Bruford also plays on that tour, the Trick of the Tail tour. Amazing live album. A lot of the stuff on that stuff, when I went back and started listening to the old stuff, I would always listen to those more than the studio records because I just simply didn't care for the way they sounded versus the live stuff. And that stuff always sounds amazing to me anyway. And 3 Sides Live, of course, the Duke and Abacab period. So there's the, so those 3 progress, and they were released years apart, obviously with studio albums in between. But if you think about it, just put those 3 together back to back. I mean, they defined what the band, the trajectory of where they would go.
And let me guess, you're taking Seconds Out.
Yes. The best of the 3. And I mean, Supper's Ready alone on that is absolutely fantastic. And I've never got to see that live. I've never seen Genesis perform that in its entirety.
Oh man!
So that
Eric, you gotta go see Steve Hackett, man. You really gotta find if he's playing your area and really go see Steve Hackett. You really.
So he does it. He does the entire thing.
My dad and I were lucky enough. I actually won the tickets on 104.3. Okay. I was lucky enough to see him do Seconds Out from top to bottom.
That's amazing.
The entire thing, including the piano intro on Firth the Fifth. It was incredible.
Yeah. The only thing is Seconds Out does not have Paper Late on it.
Yeah. Genesis Live is the one that made
great song. It's underrated. You don't hear it enough. Paper Late. Sorry, I got to go there.
Paper Late.
You get a live album and you get 3 sides, and then you get a 4th side. So all right,
that's the American version.
Yes.
UK version is a fourth live side, which so it's older
and
material.
It's still called Three Sides Live.
Yeah. I don't know why. Yeah. So
there you go. That's that British humor coming through.
There you go. Mm-hmm.
Rob D, what do you got for your honorable mention?
My honorable mention, I'm going Down Under.
What? Wait, that ain't that kind of show. Or maybe it is.
AC/DC.
Good.
AC/DC. Highway to Hell, Back in Black, and For Those About to Rock.
Look at you.
I think that it's unbelievable that a band can lose its lead singer and have another lead singer come in and not even lose a step. I mean, I don't think that's ever happened in any other band.
Van Halen would like to talk to you. Amy Hagar's on line 1.
Yeah, but they had to overcome. Bon Scott died, like to deal with like the death.
Okay, well, now we're adding things. Oh, well, he died. You know, it's like,
and not only that, but Back in Black is probably considered one of the isn't it one of the top selling albums of all time?
I think it's the third. It's behind Bad. I think it's the Eagles' greatest hits, Michael Jackson, Bad, and then Back in Black.
And I mean, Back in Black, that whole album, front and back, is hits completely. Yeah. I love the Bon Scott era. I love the Brian Johnson era. I mean, and that, you know, hinges right there. Highway to Hell, Back in Black, and I mean, For Those About to Rock, that song "Let's Get It Up" at the pizza treat in town in Dobbs Ferry. I used to blast that on the jukebox in there every time I went in there.
Jukebox? What's that?
Yeah, right.
I don't know. What's a jukebox?
Do you remember there's a jukebox in there?
I do. That's a great choice. You know, I was, when you said AC/DC, I'm like, okay, is he going all Bon Scott? Is he going all Brian Johnson? No, you threaded the needle.
According to the list of the best-selling albums of all time, Michael Jackson Thriller has 70 million in reported sales, followed by AC/DC Back in Black, 50 million in sales, and then then it goes down from there. But
yeah,
if it's to believe based on reported,
it's a compilation, and that Eagles, list is probably non-comps.
According to this, Eagles, the reported sales is 44 million. So there's a difference between what's been certified and what's been reported. Yes. So what's been reported on that record is 30. Yeah, Back in Black says 31.2 million, but the record company's reported 50 million.
Okay, I'm going to close it out on a controversy. I had three honorable mentions, and I'm going to pick one. The one I'm going to pick, you're going to be like, yeah, and then I'm going to tell you the albums. You're going to be like, no.
Yeah. Okay.
I'm going to say it quickly. This way you guys don't have time to react. The group is Queen.
Okay.
The albums are The Works from 84, Kind of Magic from 86, and The Miracle from 89. Yes, I am a Queen 80s homer.
Wow.
I love their 80s output more than I love their 70s output. I think in the 80s, Queen hit their stride. Freddie Mercury's voice was mature. It was developed. He had total mastery over it. The Works is a gem, unparalleled. A Kind of Magic is kind of a, you know, half soundtrack, half whatever, which is okay. The Miracle, totally underrated. No one listens to The Miracle. It's got stuff like The Invisible Man on it. It's got Scandal on there. It's got Khashoggi Ship. It's, oh my God, Hitman. There is so much like, you know, they did not stop. Like they fell off in America because they thought nobody liked them, so they stopped touring America. They kept on putting out albums, and you know, their 80s output was just as good. Like they didn't really fall off. How could they? They're Queen. You know, when you have 4 formidable songwriters and you have Freddie Mercury, you're not falling off. It's just people in America just weren't listening, but they were still popular worldwide. And I'm going to put it out there, you know, that, those 3 in a row, just emblematic of
I probably would have gone with The Game.
I knew you would have.
Flash Gordon. I mean, it's a great soundtrack.
Yeah.
It's just, it's mostly instrumental. There's not much, Freddie, but he does give some vocal performance. And the fact that they just did that soundtrack to me is just, it's gold. And then of course the works, those three. But if you took Flash out of that, I mean, it's a shame, it's because I would have liked to have picked the Highlander stuff over Flash Gordon, but it's just not in succession there. So, but yeah.
There you go. So that's going to do it. That's our picks. We had one honorable mention. I think it's a hearty list. I think it was a great conversation. It's great that we talk about how much we love our favorite groups, but it was interesting to then dive a little deeper and have to check not say your favorite album, but kind of take a slice, which makes you think a little differently about things as well. So that's going to do it for this episode of the 3324 podcast. We appreciate you checking us out as we soar into year number 6 and close out year number 5 of our show. We're always grateful for Mr. Rob DiStefano coming out.
Love being here. This is awesome.
Yeah. We were in sync for a little while, and then we were kindred spirits, mano y mano. We were walking hand in hand through the list. Mr. Chris,
and we got to send Chris. We got to send Chris some U2 albums.
Yes.
Have him listen.
I'm going to start sending him every day. I'm going to send him a little Bono meme, a little GIF, a little Bono GIF from Live Aid with his mullet.
Yeah, he had quite a prodigious mullet in the 80s. That is
he did. He did. But you know what? He weathered the storm too. He cut his hair. He went with the flow. He did the
fly glasses
too. So, Christopher Clark, thank you for bringing your considerable music knowledge to bear as well. Your picks were right there.
Thank you.
We're gonna. Eric and I are going to have to meet about the whole Bono thing. It is causing a bit of a problem. So we're going to have to kind of talk about that. It's going to be called the Bono problem now that we have. Discuss it. How do you feel about The Edge really quick? Two words.
Too many effects.
That's 3 words.
Sorry.
But that's fine. We got it. So it's not just Bono. It's the whole thing.
Yeah, it's just not my
bag. And then you say, Adam Clayton, pot smoker.
No, I wouldn't be. I couldn't say that with a straight face and be a Grateful Dead fan. So
that's true,
or a Dave Matthews fan for that matter.
Yeah.
See, he didn't go there. All right, that's going to do it for this episode. We really appreciate each and every one of you that check us out each week or stop in and check in with us and see what's going on. This was a really fun discussion. It was really a lot of fun. We can probably do something like this with movies, Eric, right? We could probably pick pick an actor or actress, and we could
milk director.
We could milk this for another episode.
Yeah, absolutely.
We can absolutely get more mileage out of this.
Mm-hmm. Sure thing.
All righty. That will do it. Without further ado, we will say our goodbyes. For Rob D, for Christopher Clark, for Eric, this has been Dean. We'll catch you on the flip side.
You've been listening to the 3324 podcast with Dean Legiro and Eric Kuber. You can find us on your favorite podcast provider, so please like, subscribe, and rate to become a part of the 3324 family. Your feedback is important, so make sure to follow us on Instagram and Facebook at 3324 podcast and on Twitter at 3324p to join the conversation.